Hey friends, it is Jenna, what is up? And welcome back to the Board Game Garden, and welcome to my favorite games that I played this past month, which was February. I'm fully aware when this video goes up, it's probably going to be like the 14th, it might be the 13th when this video goes up, so I'm a little bit behind, but I typically get these monthly videos up the following month around mid-month, so we're doing okay, but I will mention that a lot of the games that are in my top 10 are games that I played really early on in February, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to explain them somewhat, but a lot of these I played a while ago, and I don't 100% remember all of the gameplay kind of details. So hopefully that's okay with you guys. I really enjoy just doing these videos and kind of going quickly over the games that I enjoyed within the past month. So yeah, we're going to get right into this. I'm going to get into my board game stats, and then we'll get into the herb garden, which I have a few smaller box games that I want to mention, and then we'll get into my top 10 games of February. So if you guys are interested in hearing all about that, then just keep on watching. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoy. Also, hit that subscribe button down below if you have to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. We're getting pretty close to 32,000, which is amazing, and I'm so happy with this community and how amazing it is. So thank you guys so much for being here and watching my videos and continuing to support. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this monthly wrap up, shall we? All right, so getting right into my board game stats, which, like I say in all these videos, I use the app BG Stats, which I will put the little app logo right here if you want to go and check it out. A big goal of mine for 2025 is to continuously and consistently use the BG Stats app, which I have done pretty well thus far. But I will say February was a pretty slow month for me. So for my BG Stats, I had a total of 33 plays, which is pretty low, and that was a total of 30 different games. 16 of those were new to me, so I didn't play a ton of new to me games. Usually it's up in like the low 30s for the new games that I've played in a month, but it is 16 this month, and I guess I played a lot more of games that I've played before again, which is nice. And then on BGA, which I have been playing a lot of BGA recently, I have a total of 24 plays for the month of February. So yeah, February was an interesting month. I felt like I was super busy and I didn't have a lot of time to play board games. Majority of the games that I have here on my list are games that I played at Level Up, which was literally the first few days of February. And then I also additionally had a board game day here at my house on the 22nd, and a few of the games in this list are also from that day as well. But other than those two big kind of events, I didn't really do a ton of gaming throughout the month. So, and obviously these are just multiplayer games. I am going to be doing a sewing solo video going over all the games that I've played solo recently, but for now we are just going over the multiplayer games, and for the most part all of those were either at Level Up or the board game day that I had here at my house. So yes, those are all my BG stats, but let's get right into the herb garden. All right, so moving into the herb garden, there are 3 different games that I want to chat about. And fun fact for this video, it feels really weird because out of all of the games that I want to chat about in the herb garden, as well as my top 10 games for the month, I only have one of them physically. The rest of them I do not own a copy of, which actually, that's a lie. I own a copy of this one game. Which, speaking of this one game, I might as well talk about it now because this is included in the herb garden. But I wanted to chat quickly about this game right here. This is Apropos of board games. This is a little wallet game by Button Shy, and I do believe that there is another version of this that is just Apropos that is not board game related. I think it's like movies or something. But this is designed by Peter C. Hayward, and it's a Button Shy game. And this is a fun little like party game, just really chill game where you're working cooperatively to think up board games that have something or do not have something. So basically it's just a bunch of different cards that have specific things a board game might have. So it might be cubes or meeples or I don't even know, multi-use cards. There probably isn't that. Set in space. has an expansion, different things like that. And basically you're flipping over a card and putting it into the has this, and you have to, as a group, come up with a board game that has that specific thing. So it might be has cubes. So then you'd say pandemic. Pandemic has cubes. And then you would actually flip over another card, and if pandemic had that specific thing that was on that card, you would put that card into does not have that. So then you would have to come up with a new game that both had cubes and, let's say, what is something that pandemic has? A board. So then you would have to think up a board game that had cubes but doesn't have a board. So it's this very fun, kind of cooperative, chill game where you're all working together and you're basically trying to get 5 cards out and successfully think of 5 different games, either having those things or not having those things by the end of, I think it's like a 5-minute timer. Very fun little game. It made me actually want to get the other one, which is the movies, like I said, because that would be a lot of fun as well. But this one is specifically for board gamers. And if you have a group of board game lovers, I think this is a fun one to take out in between bigger games just to fill the space and have a fun little game to play. So yes, that is my first game I wanted to chat about here in the herb garden. That is apropos of board games. All right, moving into the second game that I want to chat about. This was actually the very first game that I played in February. I actually played this at around midnight on February 1st. And that game is Dokito Ice. I always think it's Tokito Ice, but it's Dokito Ice. And this is a, I believe, Japanese trick-taking game. I do not have this game and I wish I had it. I'm gonna try to find it because I really enjoyed it. But basically it is a trick-taking game where you are trying to have a ice cream cone with 3 scoops of ice cream on it. If you ever get more than 3 scoops of ice cream, then you are going to bust and not get any victory points. So it's this very interesting thing of trying to take 3 tricks and then not getting any more, which is kind of cool. And the other players at the table kind of are forcing you to get more tricks. If you actually have 3 tricks, then people might try to make you win the tricks so that you bust and you don't get any victory points. But yeah, basically you are playing tricks. You're playing a card into the center, following the lead suit. If you can't follow the lead suit, then you can play another card. So if at least one player cannot follow suit, then the way that you're going to win that trick actually changes. So if someone has to play off suit, then it turns out to be the lowest card played that wins instead of the highest card of the led suit, which I think is really cool. But then after the trick is finished, everyone has played in a card. Whoever won that trick, whether they played the highest of the led suit or the lowest card if someone had to play off suit, you will be able to choose an ice cream cone scoop to place or an ice cream scoop to place onto your cone. And you have to choose one of the flavors of the suits played into the trick. So there's like vanilla and chocolate, strawberry, matcha, and then I think there's a purple, which I thought was taro, but it's actually grape, which I've never heard of grape ice cream before. But if anyone has tried grape ice cream, let me know if it's any good. But yes, once you have won a trick, you choose one of those flavors based off of the suits that are in that trick. You place it onto your ice cream cone, and a really kind of fun thing with the ice cream is that they're going to be placed into piles face down, and you're going to choose one of the ice cream scoops. And if your ice cream scoop actually has a star on it, that means that you get an extra topping for your ice cream cone, and that is an additional victory point. So you could have up to 3 scoops with 3 toppings, so you could get a total of 6 victory points at most each round. Or if you get any more than 3 scoops, you're gonna bust and get 0 victory points. So yes, very fun little trick-taking game with the most adorable art and the most adorable theme. I love the ice cream theme, it's very unique. But yeah, that is Dokito Ice, which I am going to hopefully get into the collection eventually. All right, and then lastly for the herb garden, I wanted to give a shout out to this game because I actually really liked this game. And my friend Aiden, if you're watching this, Aiden, you're gonna love that I am mentioning this game right now. But Aiden brought a game to a game night, and that game is called Penguin Airlines. So this is a fun, like team-based game. So we played this 4 players, and so we had 2v2. And basically what's gonna happen is one person on your team is going to have cards cards they're going to be flipping over, and they are going to have to explain what is on the card so that the person or the teammate can actually find it on this big kind of control board. Kind of looks like you'd be in an airplane and you have all of like the buttons and the levers and stuff and a bunch of different things on this board. And basically they are trying to explain what is on the card so that their teammate like touches that thing on the board, and then they have to explain something else. I think there's like 2 different things on each card, and then once they have those 2 different things located, then the like other team actually gets to look at the card and make sure that it is correct, and then you put it face down, and you're trying to just do that as many times as possible within a certain time in order to get as many victory points as possible. It was so much fun, and I really enjoyed like the whole trying to explain things and being like, oh, it is a button and there are 3 red buttons in a horizontal line, and there's these like little things below it, and you're like trying to explain these things that you're trying to get your teammate to see on this huge board of a bunch of different controls and stuff. And it is supposed to like mimic you being a pilot and trying to explain from somewhere else what button or lever or whatever they need to do on the control panel in order to fly this plane. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. Huge shout out to Aiden for introducing it to me. It's kind of funny because we have this like inside joke that I never want to play Pan Am because I just don't really like the like airplane theme. And fun fact, I thought Pan Am was a basketball game for a very long time. Yes, a basketball game. You cannot tell me that this does not look like a basketball. It does. It does to me, okay? But yes, it was fun. I really enjoyed Penguin Airlines, and that's why I wanted to mention it here in the Herb Garden. So those are the games for the Herb Garden. All right, so moving into my top 10 games of February. So we're gonna start with number 10, and I don't want this video to be too crazy long, so I'm gonna try to go through these decently quick, but my number 10 is a game called Square on Sale. So this was a game that I was introduced to by Jay. He has a YouTube channel called Cardboard East. I will link his channel down below because he is wonderful. But Square on Sale is, I think he said, one of his favorite games from Japan. And I was a little bit apprehensive about it because it's like an abstract game with some bidding and stuff, and that's usually not the type of game that I enjoy. But he was like, this is a fantastic game, you need to try it. So I ended up trying it, and I actually really enjoyed it. Basically, it, like I said, is an abstract game where you are trying to get all of your squares onto this board. Bear with me because I don't 100% remember the rules and exactly what you're doing on your turn, but basically you're trying to get rid of all of your squares, and you're doing this by bidding for different spaces. And then once you, I think, have flipped over, there's this like little like die thing that has 2 pips, and then you flip it over to have 1 pip, and then it gets taken off. So once that has been taken off, after you've made a bid to that space, you get to place your cube or your square onto that space, and you kind of claim that space. Someone else can go on top of yours, but as for right now, you own that space. And then you are trying to get another space that is in a like line from that square, and whatever is in between. So let's just say I owned 1 spot, there were 2 empty spots, and then I owned another spot. I would then be able to own this 2 in between. So you're trying to like own spaces that are far apart, so then you can fill in the space in between, if that makes sense. I'm doing an awful job explaining this, but it overall was a very fun game, and it surprised me because it's not a game that I would typically play, and I'm really happy that I got to experience it and I got to play it. So huge shout out to Jay for bringing that to Level Up. But that is why Square on Sale was my number 10. Moving on to number 9. So this was a game that I've been wanting to try for so long. This is a very unique game where it is actually a flick and write, but this is a game called Sonora. So Sonora was a game that my friend Ronnie, or Veronica, has mentioned to me many times, and we tried to play it at last year's Level Up, but we weren't able to play it at that Level Up, so we tried to play it at this more recent Level Up, and we almost didn't play it, but we ended up playing a little bit of it, which I will say right now, I haven't played a full game of this, but I already from a few rounds that I've played, I already know that I will really enjoy this once I actually get to play a full game of it. That is why it is number 9. It would probably be up a lot higher if I was able to play a full game of it. But basically you have a bunch of tokens that have different numbers on them, and you're going to be taking turns flicking these different tokens onto this board that has 4 different quadrants, and those 4 different quadrants connect to 4 different quadrants that you have on your board, and each of the quadrants are going to be small little mini games that you're going to be able to play that play in slightly different ways. One's going to be some like polyomino shapes that you're going to be doing. Another one, you're going to be creating paths. Another one, you're also going to be creating paths, but in a slightly different way. And then the top left one is that you are completing different groups, and it's kind of a race for whoever completes a group will get the more victory points. And then whoever completes it after will get slightly less victory points. But yeah, I'm always a huge fan of rollin' rights, flippin' rights, draftin' rights, and now flickin' rights. I feel like it was a lot of fun, and a game that I'm definitely going to be looking for. I'm actually going to BreakoutCon this coming weekend, and there is a bring and buy there, and I am hoping that I can find a copy of Sonora for a good price. So yeah, that is my number 9, Sonora. Moving on to number 8. So this game I actually played at my friend Donna's house. I forgot there was actually another board game day that we had. I think it was actually the weekend before the board game day here at my house. But my number 8 is a game called TBGG. I think that's how you pronounce it. But this is actually a game that was on my radar, and a game that I've wanted to try for a bit ever since I found out that it actually came to retail, or I guess the Kickstarter fulfilled. But this is a game designed by Randy Flynn, which he designs Cascadia, or he designed Cascadia, and I'm a huge fan of Cascadia, so I was like, I'm gonna need to try this game. But this is a fairly straightforward game where it is really just a lot of resource conversions, which I love in games. I love how satisfying that is. And basically you have a bunch of different contracts that you're trying to fulfill of a bunch of different resources that you're gonna need to trade in order to get or fulfill this contract. That's gonna get you some victory points. It's also gonna make you go up on this one track that's gonna get you bonuses and different things in the game. But then it also allows you to tuck that card and give you income, which I think is really cool. But what you're actually doing in the game is you're gonna have, I think, 3 different workers, if I remember correctly, and you're going to be moving those workers. I think you can move a maximum of 3 spaces or something to another spot, and each of the different kind of, I don't really know if it's worker placement because you are still like moving your meeple from one place to another, so I don't know if it's really considered worker placement, but I'll say it's worker placement. And there are a bunch of different buildings that you can visit that are either going to allow you to trade different resources or pick up different resources, or it's also going to be some sort of like little dice mini game that is going to give you resources in different ways. And I just think it is very straightforward, but like very thinky, and just how am I going to get these specific resources, and how am I going to go to like different buildings and exchange for the resources that I need in order to fulfill these different contracts. So yes, it ended up being one that I really enjoyed and I would definitely play again. I don't know if it's a game that I would need to get for my collection. I'm actually not sure if there is a solo mode or not, which typically that is what makes me want to get a game into my collection. If I play a game and I enjoy it and it doesn't have a solo mode, I'm less likely to get it for my collection and just play my friends' copies if they have it. But if there is a solo mode, I love to, you know, get that into my collection if I enjoy it and try the solo mode. So overall, really enjoyed TBGG, and that is why it is my number 8 of February. My number 7 is quite a big game, but I really enjoyed it. I do think that I just overall am not the hugest fan of crazy over-the-top games that have like a crazy amount of stuff going on. But this one, I feel like I got a good feel for it and I really did enjoy it. And the game that I'm talking about is Voidfall. So this is one that it is quite a big game, and that's why it is slightly lower on the list. I really enjoyed the gameplay of it, more so the kind of more Euro-y aspects of it, rather than the more Ameritrash aspects of it with the fighting in space and stuff. But in Voidfall, you have your own kind of play area and your own fleet of ships that are going out and attacking these different enemies in space. I do believe that you can also attack other players, but in the game that we played, which I played with Brian, Zachary, as well as Carly from Board Game Buzz, we all played this at Level Up. But yeah, we did not attack each other. I primarily just attacked like the other enemies in order to take over the different spots on the board. But I really enjoyed the, like I said, more Euro-y aspects of the game with the card play. Basically on your turn, you're going to be choosing I think it was one card and 2 actions on that card, because each of those cards are going to give you 3 different action options, and you're going to choose 2 of those to perform, and they're going to be, you know, spending resources in order to upgrade your ship or move ships and fight people and different things like that. I'm not going to go too much into the gameplay because there's just so much going on in that game, but there is some like resource production and like different goals that you're going for. And like I said, I really enjoyed the card play of trying to decide what cards you're going to play and then what 2 actions you're going to play, so on and so forth. But yeah, I do think that this would be higher if it wasn't as vast of a game, but I know that that's something that a lot of people enjoy. And Brian, the one that brought the game, and actually I don't think he brought the game. I think there was a copy in the Level Up library, but he's the one that primarily taught the game, and it's one of his favorite games. So huge shout out, Brian. Also Zachary helped with teaching a little bit as well, but a huge shout out to you guys for having the patience to teach Carly and I. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really, really happy that I did get to try Voidfall because it was a lot of fun, and I would play it again if someone would be willing to, you know, set it up and like teach it again and stuff like that. Because I guarantee if I ever play it again, I'm gonna completely forget all the rules. So yes. Anyways, that was my number 7 for February, Voidfall. Moving into number 6. So this was one that kind of let me down a little bit. I still enjoyed it, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I wanted to enjoy it. But my number 6 is Tea Garden. So I really got my hopes up for this one because tea garden, obviously you're making tea, it's a garden. It seemed like a game that I would absolutely love. And don't get me wrong, I did really enjoy it and I would love to play it again. I would love to own it if there was a solo mode, but I don't think there was a solo mode. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I could correct myself if I am wrong. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. Basically in Tea Garden, you are producing tea leaves that are going to be in these different little baskets, and the tea leaves are going to be kind of different levels. So you have level 1 tea leaves, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can go all the way up to I think 6 or 7. You can also, I think it was ferment the leaves, so you flip it over to the more like brown orangey side. And if you ferment them at the end of each round, they're going to go up in strength or power or whatever it is. But if you don't ferment them, they're actually going to go down, which I think was a really cool aspect of the game. Aside from that, you're also going to be building pergolas out on this map, and you're going to have to start from one spot and kind of branch out from there. And those are then going to give you different spots in order to produce these tea leaves. Each spot is going to produce in a different kind of level of tea leaf. Penny has joined me down here. She just jumped in her little blanket basket. But I haven't actually chatted about the like main part of the game, which is the card play, which I think is cool. It is a deck building game, so you are purchasing cards that are going to be stronger cards, and on your turn you are playing a certain amount of cards from your hand, and I think it had to be like a certain amount of power or something. I don't exactly remember what it was, but basically it's going to add up to a certain amount of power that is then going to be the amount of power that you get for your action, whether that is going out and building a pergola or fermenting leaves, or there's also these cards on the side which are like the caravan cards that are basically going to be how you spend your leaves. You're going to spend a certain amount of leaves in order to get rewards and victory points. And that was the one thing that I kind of felt was a little bit overpowered in the game. I felt like you always wanted to go for these caravan cards because they were just so much better for getting you victory points than anything else in the game. So that was the one thing that I was like, I don't love that. I tried to go for purchasing a lot of cards because the cards will get you victory points at the end of the game. So I, in the end, really did enjoy it, but there were some things that I didn't love about the game. There were also these little like jar cards, or not cards, jar tiles that you would get, and then you would get the bonus in between jars if you were able to connect the same color together. And then also at the end of the game, you would get victory points based off of how many of the same color you were able to connect, which I went for those as well, but it didn't really pay out in victory points at the end of the game as much as those caravan cards did. So overall, I enjoyed Tea Garden. Definitely didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to, but it was still a lot of fun. The designer of Tea Garden also designed SETI, and I really have enjoyed SETI as well. That was one of my favorite games of January. And then he also has designed Galileo Galilei, which is one that I really want to try as well. I might try to see if I can play it this weekend at BreakoutCon. But yeah, overall, enjoyed Tea Garden, but that is my number 6 of February. Moving on to number 5. So this is a game that just came out of nowhere, and this game has a little bit of a funny story behind it because my friend Aiden, he is a huge fan of just games that I have never heard of before, and he's always just like, hey, found this game, looks really cool, who wants to play it? And I'm like, I've never seen that game in my life. He is the epitome of like a board game hipster and just like loves games that no one talks about. So I really wanted for this past Christmas to get him or gift him a game that I did some research on and found that not a lot of people talked about. And I found this game called Red Outpost, and I was like, this sounds like a game that Aiden will really, really enjoy. So I ended up picking it up for him for Christmas, and we ended up really enjoying it. And it makes me really happy that I did research and I looked for a game that I'd never heard of before and really looked into like the gameplay of it, and it sounded like something that Aiden would enjoy. So yeah, I was really proud of myself for that one. But Red Outpost is an interesting one where basically it is a worker placement game, but all of the workers are or can be moved by any player. So there is a set of, I think, 6 different workers that you can move. And basically on your turn, you are just deciding which one of those 6 workers you want to move. You're going to be placing them onto a spot. Each of these spots are going to be doing different things, gaining different resources that then you're going to get victory points for at the end of the game based off of this kind of area in the corner. And it's interesting because you're going to be moving these workers, and if you move a worker, you will then get kind of influence on that worker, I guess. I'm going to do a horrible job explaining this game because it's very like brain thinky in the way that it plays, because everyone can move the workers and you're kind of putting influence into these different workers. And then basically if you have the most influence with a specific worker, you are going to gain or lose victory points based off of their happiness, which is pretty cool. And it's the type of thing that I know that my friend Aiden really enjoys. I think he mentioned that he kind of compared this a little bit to Bus, which I've never played Bus before in my life. But he said that it had some similar gameplay aspects, if I remember correctly. maybe I'm remembering completely wrong, but I think he mentioned that. But yeah, overall, it's a very interesting game. I feel like no one talks about this game. It is really cool looking. The front of it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Scythe in a way, but with a really cool like pink sky. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It really surprised me. It was one that I was like, I am not gonna like this. I know Aiden will hopefully like it, but I don't know if I will enjoy it. But it ended up being a very fun, very interesting game. Plays very different from anything that I've played before, and it was a lot of fun. So that is why Red Outpost is my number 5. All right, moving into number 4, which this is the only game that I actually have physically for this video. But my number 4 is Le Havre, which I really enjoy this one. This is one that I actually purchased, I think from BreakoutCon last year. So it's almost been a year of this game sitting on my shelf of opportunity. Actually, no, I don't think, ow, I just scratched myself. I don't think I got this from BreakoutCon. I think I actually got it from my friend Kat because she purchased a little bundle of games, and this is one that she didn't want, so I purchased it off of her. But this is an Uwe Rosenberg game. It is a classic. I do think it is in the top like 100 games of all time, and it's been a classic that I've always wanted to try because I really enjoyed a game called Newsfjord by Uwe Rosenberg as well, and I've just heard a lot of good things about Le Havre, and Francis also showed interest in Le Havre as well. So what ended up happening is we actually played Le Havre on Valentine's Day together, Francis and I, and we both really enjoyed it. So this is a like card game. The rules are pretty straightforward, where basically on your turn, you are just going to move your boat to the next open spot. That spot is then going to tell you what resources are going to be added to the different resource pools. And then on your turn, you can either grab all of one resource from that resource pool, or you're going to trigger a kind of card worker placement spot. So you'll take your little disc and you'll place it on that card, and then you'll be able to do some sort of action. You can build more of these building cards into your tableau. Basically, if another player uses your card for their worker placement ability, you're going to gain some sort of reward for that or benefit for that. And you're going to be getting ships, and there's like different types of buildings that are going to allow you to exchange different resources for the like higher version of that resource. The main thing of this game is that you're trying to be able to afford these different buildings in order to place them into your tableau. There's also, like I said, the boats that you can build, and the boats help with feeding your people, which is a big part of the game as well. This is quite the challenging game because there are a bunch of rounds, and the amount of food that you have to feed your people at the end of each round is going to go up every single round until the end, where you're gonna have to be paying like 24 food or something crazy like that. And it gets pretty difficult, and that's why you have to really invest in getting the ships, because those are going to help you with feeding your people. I will say there was one card that Francis got that was like the market, and basically it allowed him to sell his goods and get coins, and that really helped him. He ended up completely destroying me, of course. Francis is so funny because he seems like he enjoys games so much, but it takes so much for like me to get him to play a game with me. So I was really happy when he agreed to play Le Havre with me. It was probably because it was Valentine's Day and he wanted to do something nice, but now that we know Le Havre, I feel like it'll be one that we get to the table quite often together. He's just a fan of playing games that he already knows and already knows he enjoys. So yeah, it's very difficult to get new games to the table with Francis, but this is one that we both learned together and it was a lot of fun, and I'm excited to play it again because I feel like the variation and kind of replayability of this game is really good with all of the different types of buildings and cards and stuff. So yes, that is my number 4, Le Havre. All right, moving into the top 3 games of February. So number 3 is a game that completely surprised me. It was a game that I mentioned, I think, in my PAX Unplugged most anticipated video. I think maybe it was. I could be wrong. I think it was that. But the game that I'm talking about is Kavango or Kavango. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, but this was a game that I was so excited to see at PAX Unplugged. It was a game that went to crowdfunding and recently had fulfilled, and it is a gorgeous game. It is a closed drafting game, which I absolutely love. Basically, closed drafting is just like Seven Wonders or It's a Wonderful World, where you get a hand of cards. You're going to pick one or two and then pass the rest to the player to your left or your right. You're going to continue doing that until all of the cards are gone. And this one is a closed drafting and tableau building game. So you're going to be building up this reserve of animals, and each animal is going to have different kind of tags on them that are going to be required for playing other cards. So a card or an animal card might require 3 deer icons. So you're going to have 3 deer icons somewhere in your tableau before you're able to play this other card into your tableau. So this tableau builder. Additionally, you're going to be getting these cubes that you can spend in different ways or add into your reserve in different ways that are going to be required for different cards. And you're going to be getting these cubes by completing these different objectives, which I really enjoyed. I always love a good objective or goal or quest in a game. It's just one of my favorite things in games. So there are different objectives that you're going to be completing every single round. I think there are 3 rounds, and like I said, with the cubes that you get from those objectives, you're going to be able to add them to the population and conservation of your reservation. Is that what they're called? I forget what it was called. Reserve? Is that what I called it before? Basically, you need specific amounts of cubes within your population and your conservation in order to play some of the cards. That's going to be like one of the like required things for you to have in order to play out some cards. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this one. I had the opportunity to play it at Level Up on the last day. Huge shout out to James and Ryan and Carrie for playing that with me. It was a lot of fun, and it's one that honestly, I would love to get into the collection because it's just absolutely beautiful. It does have a solo mode, I'm almost positive, and I just really enjoyed the gameplay of it. So that is why Kavango is my number 3. Number 2 is a game that I want so bad. This is a fantastic game. It is a trick-taking game, and it's actually a game that I saw getting played early last year in its like prototype form at a thing called Atom that I went to, and it is from the publisher Inside Up Games, which I love a lot of their games. Draft and Write Records, Earth, just so amazing. But their newest games that they have brought to Kickstarter are 3 different games in these like books. And my number 2 is a game called Crits and Tricks, which this is, like I said, a game that I saw getting played in its prototype form, and then being able to see it come to crowdfunding and seeing it with all of its beautiful art and being able to play it. Actually, a friend brought it here, James brought it here to my house for our game day. It ended up being one of my favorite games that I played that day. I really enjoy trick-taking games, and this one is so unique when it comes to the trick-taking because you're going to get a hand of cards, and those cards are just going to be the suits. So there are a bunch of different suits that are kind of like D&D characters. So you have like the bard and the wizard and the barbarian, different things like that. And you're going to be playing out these suits along with a die that you roll. So you have one of each of the D&D typical set of dice. So you have a D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and possibly another one, I'm not 100% sure. But you have all of these, a D20, duh. So you have all these dice, you're gonna be rolling all of them, they're going to be behind a screen, and then someone is going to lead with a suit card, so it could be a wizard, and you do have to follow with that. So if you do have a wizard, you have to play it, and then additionally you have to play one of your dice along with it, and each of the different suits are going to change how you win that trick. So I think like the wizards, you're trying to get closest to 5. I could be wrong. That might be another one. Barbarians are, I think, going to be the highest. And then something else, the rogue is going to be, you want the lowest number. Different things like that. It's very, very unique and very cool. And then additionally, along with that, you're also going to be trying to achieve these different quests that you have. And those quests are going to, again, be secret behind your little screen. And some of them are going to be that you want to lose in a trick that are wizards, and you want to, you know, play and win with a D8 and different things like that. And basically you're going to get a certain amount of victory points based off of completing those different quests. And really fun thing about it is that you're going to be gaining these victory points in different, like, loot, I guess. You have like coins, and you have different like pieces of like shield and weapons and stuff that are, like, it says on the back of it like how many points it's worth, but like a shield could be like 2.5 victory points. And it was just a very cool and fun experience, and it's one that I really want to play more in the future. This is one that I have seriously considered backing because it is up on, I think, Kickstarter right now. If it is still, Crits and Tricks, I will link it down below. There's additionally 2 other games. There's like a 1v1 game, and there's also like a hidden movement game. But I will have the crowdfunding campaign for that one linked down below. But Crits and Tricks, very fun. And I will additionally add that it is a trick-taking game that has a solo mode, and I am so intrigued to see how that game plays solo. So yes, that is my number 2, one that I really want to play again, Crits and Tricks. All right, and my last and final game, my top game for the month of February, is a Lacerda game. And I enjoy Lacerda games, but they're definitely games that like I don't need to own myself, and games that I have to be in a very specific mood in order to play. So this one I actually got to play with a group of friends at Level Up, and this has kind of become a little bit of a tradition that we've done the last 3 years of Level Up. Is we've, on the Saturday morning of Level Up, we always get together and play a Lacerda or a Lacerda adjacent game, because we played Rococo the year before this. But the game that I'm talking about, and my number 1 for February, is the Gallerist. So the Gallerist, like I said, is a Lacerda game where you are playing as a art gallery owner, and you are purchasing, or I guess getting in, different pieces of art into your gallery in order to get victory points. And if you do want to, eventually sell those pieces of art to make back more money than you originally paid for the art before. So you're kind of like banking for these smaller artists to then get bigger by spreading the word about them and having their art go up in value in order to then sell them. So there's a lot going on in this game. I'm not going to go full into how the game is played, because if you know anything about Lacerda games, they are big, chunky boys, and there's a lot going on. But basically, this is a worker placement game. So you're going to have your worker. You're going to be placing it on one of 4 different spots, and each of those 4 different spots has 2 different actions that you can choose from. One spot is going to be the spot that you go to in order to purchase more art. I believe it's the same spot that you go to in order to sell the art as well. And also, I think there's another spot that allows you to spread the word about your artist and get them more popularity. There's another spot that allows you to get these cards that you then place onto your board that are going to be the specific like categories of art that if you then sell that piece of art, you get to flip over that card, if I'm remembering correctly, and you get some sort of bonus for that. Additionally, at the beginning of the game, you get a card that you're trying to get specific categories of art into your art gallery, and you're trying to sell specific types of art in order to get victory points at the end of the game. And there are different objectives on the side that you're going for, and like different tiles that you can add to your board that are going to allow you to have different objectives. And there's just a lot going on. Like I said, I'm not going to go fully into the whole game because there's a lot. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about the game is that whenever you leave a worker placement spot to go to another one, you're able to place one of your smaller meeple workers on that spot. And that will then then allow you, whenever someone goes there, that worker then gets bumped, and that allows you to then take an action, kind of like an extra action there after their turn. So it kind of makes the turn order a little bit confusing because you will then be taking an action at the end of another player's turn, even though it's not your turn for a little bit, if that makes sense. So there are kind of like two different like first player tokens that get passed around. There's the active player token, and then there's the player that is currently taking their actions token, if that makes sense. But yeah, if you do want to take that extra action, you do have to spend your, I think it was either influence or reputation. And in order to do that, you actually have to drop to the nearest kind of highlighted space. So it's this very cool balance of like taking those extra actions, but only if you're close, so that, you know, if you have to drop to that closest highlighted space, you're only dropping a few influence instead of dropping a ton of influence. But yeah, overall, the Gallerist was so much fun, and a lot of the enjoyment of that game was playing with the group that I was playing with. They're wonderful, and I really enjoyed their company, and I always enjoy playing a Lacerda game with them. It's just, I get into that headspace, and I know I'm going to be playing a Lacerda, so it's just a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it very much. So that is why the Gallerist was my number one for February. All right, friends, so that is everything for today's video. That is everything for my top 10 games of the month of February. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button down below if you've yet to do so. We'd love to have you here in the garden. Comment down below any games that you played in February that you really enjoyed. What are some of your top games that you've been playing more recently? But yeah, I love you guys so much. Remember, you are somebody's reason to smile, and I will see you in the next board game video. Bye, friends.